welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is my Ficus Concinna tree. You can probably tell it's seen some better days. But even before we get into that, let's take a look at this guy. Alright, but first, let's just take a look at this little Concinna cutting here. It's really a good story of sometimes life will come through, and I don't really give up on my trees until I am sure they are dead. This is the only cutting I've been able to get from the mother tree. I've only tried like a couple. This one was actually pretty good size. I don't know if you can tell, this is like the original part of the cutting here. And it has always kind of grown, it had always kind of thrown out a couple shoots, and then I think I'm going to repot it, but then I go and I look at the roots, and they have not even really filled out this pot at all, like hardly at all, just a couple little pieces down the side of the pot, and the bottom of the pot, it still has like just plain soil in it. I don't want to pull it out now because, like I said, there's not any kind of roots colonizing the pot holding it together. But early this spring, just kind of like through some of our time where we had no rain for a long time and everything, it just shriveled up down to nothing. You can see here some of the old shoots that have come out of it. There's actually a bigger shoot right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. That thing was like really tall at one point, kind of died back. I don't know why it keeps dying all the way back. But what I did, when the whole thing kind of just died back to the bottom, I could, it snapped off right there. I just set it on another pot, kind of like using it for a resting pot, and just, been hitting it with the hose every now and again. I mean, there hasn't been much water to drink. And then just a few days ago, I noticed a little bit of green there and everything, and just thought, what the heck? I'll go ahead and keep trying to get a little water on there and see what happens. I did, and that's another reason why I don't want to check the soil. I did check just to see what they look like. There was one healthy root coming out of the bottom of the, because I had it in a, sitting on the resting pot or whatever. One healthy root. I think there it is there, coming out of the bottom there. So I'm just going to continue to let it go. This will definitely be a two-part video, so when I update the other tree, I'll be updating this one too. All right, and then back to look at this guy. We actually, it's raining today, and we've actually just now started getting some real rainy season in. Our rainy season kind of sort of started and then stopped, and I noticed that some of these leaves were getting like this, and I tell people all the time, it's not really that big of a deal as long as there's healthy shoots. And there was some healthy shoots, some unhealthy shoots, but I didn't really, I wish I would have taken the time to really closely examine the tree at that time. I don't know if a couple of weeks really would have made a difference or not. But then I started noticing that it was getting sprouts, like down here, almost sucker sprouts. And just kind of, I'm going to pull the sucker sprouts off here so I can take and show you this guy. Nice red leaves when they first come out. I guess this is, there's another ficus too that sometimes they call Lipsitck ficus, but sometimes they call this one Lipsitck ficus. If you go back to the playlist and kind of look when this guy was young and everything, it really is one of these trees that I find that the only time it really looks great is like right after it's been defoliated and or pruned, and then it's got all these leaves coming out like that. But I was wondering, like, there's one here, and all these new shoots are coming off, so there's one here, and then there's also one coming out down here. And then I was just kind of looking, seeing, like, this is a healthy looking shoot. This one does not really have a healthy looking tip. And then the closer I looked, more I realized that all up in the apex, there was just all kinds of scale up here. So I'm thinking perhaps, I picked most of it off. I don't really see any now. I did take some time out there to pick it all off while I was outside. I'd rather not bring it in here. But, so I don't really know that much about the, the horticulture part of what scale actually does the damage. I know they suck the, basically they're sucking the life out of the tree. So I don't know if that was preventing the shoots from, getting new growth out of there and forcing it out of here. I know that there's a ton of fruit on here. You'll get a better look at that once I get it pruned and everything. So I decided I'm going to go ahead, and since it really hasn't done much big growth, I'm going to go ahead and just cut all the growing tips, defoliate it, and today's August 10th. We'll come back and take a look and see when it backbuds and everything. I haven't updated this tree since last October when it had a bunch of burnt leaves basically from the hurricane. It was wind desiccation where the wind, there was a couple of little storms that came through. We didn't get direct hits last year, but there was a couple storms that came through, and it really had a lot of wind but very little rain, and I think it just kind of like sucked all the moisture out of the leaves. And that was the last time I did any updating to it. And kind of letting it recover. Again, it looked great when it recovered from it, but it hasn't done much since. Since it is still August, if it was maybe a month from now, I might just defoliate it, but since it's August, I am going to try to get all the growing tips. Gives a good chance to backbud some. And that's really all there is to it. Let's get a little bit of a closer look. Alright, I may have cut the apex off there a little bit, but I did want to get in close enough to where you guys could see some of these fruits. I know some people will say to pull them off. I figure there's still resources traveling through the tree, so it'll still help thicken the branch and everything. And as long as we're hurricane free this year, or this fall, which is our peak hurricane season, but as long as it doesn't get damaged by any storms, I'll let it elongate and grow back all through the winter, and perhaps get some wire on it again next spring. I got a big chop here. I did that one, and I did this one too. Healing up fairly decently, considering ficus don't really heal up all that quick. Kind of why I've let the apex get a little bit longer than I normally would. Although now that I know it's out of the picture just a bit, but I was letting this just, you know, kind of run, trying to let it heal those scars up and everything. But I would like to kind of keep some taper in there. So here's the last chop I did, and that was amazing. All the scale was really up in there. So perhaps maybe even if I just go ahead and do something like this, I was thinking about doing this. But if I do something like this, maybe if there's some little eggs or something in there, keep them from hatching. I didn't see any scale at all below that. So we'll just see how this goes. And like I said, come back and update it whenever it recovers and has that nice foliage on there. Alright, so it has been only 20 days, and this thing has just exploded with growth. Trees really do like the humidity and everything down here. I had intended to try to get it as it was budding out. When it first buds out, you can really see the color of the leaves really well. You guys might be able to see some on this group right here. You can just kind of see the pink and the red and everything with the brand new leaves. When it first leaves out, it really is very, very much more red. I just find this time of year, time seems to be rocketing by for me. This is when the rains really start, grass starts getting really out of control, school's just started, wind up with so much to do, I just run out of time to do things. Pluck off a couple unwanted pieces of growth here. And I'm going to go ahead and get that little cutting, update that guy too. Alright, and here is the little cutting. And since it survived, since, you know, this 20 days when I finally noticed a little bit of life on it, I did actually do a little more investigating, trying to see how old it is. And I found a video from 2.5 years ago. I thought that was when I took the cutting because I mentioned it in the title of the video. And then when I went to go investigate, I actually was kind of talking about the same thing, how it had some shoots, seemed like they died off. And I was just worried about its health. But, so it's got to be at least 2.5 years old. I'm thinking probably just even from looking at the condition in that video there, I do have the playlist and everything. I must not have taken the cutting on an actual video. I must have just done it as a little bit of work and didn't think it was worth, probably thought it wouldn't survive, so I didn't put it on video. But anyhow, still kicking here a little bit. I've mentioned several times, or I think I mentioned earlier in this video anyway, about how it doesn't really, I've been waiting for it to, you know, seems like a really small pot, but I've been, you know, considering it is kind of a thick-ish cutting here and everything. And I've been waiting for it to fill up with roots every time I pull it out. there's really no roots showing, so I just have been putting it back in, hoping for the best, and it'll get these shoots out. I mentioned in that other video from 2.5 years ago that at one point it shot, it did have a shoot that came out like 2 feet tall and then just kind of withered back down. I don't know if that one got so far up it couldn't transpire all that water up there, maybe not enough roots. I don't know, but anyhow, I think today I've been looking. I've got this pot, which is just a little bit wider, just a little bit deeper. I got this little nursery pot here, quite a bit wider, quite a bit deeper. The rectangular training pots that I usually use, the small one is not as deep as this, and I don't want to jeopardize the health anymore. I kind of want to do a slip pot here. And then the next size up that I have is way too big. So it'll be, I think, one of these two. I'm just going to kind of wait and see what it looks like when I pull it up out of here. Every time I pull it out, I just kind of take a peek and put it right back in. So today I'm going to look a little further. All right, since this thing is so small, I'm not going to do my normal repotting setup. Hopefully the angle isn't too sharp. But let's get a look at this. I got to get this job done here and go out and cut some grass. Now, from my memory, I don't think I've ever really seen any reaching the bottom like that. Any roots reaching the bottom like that. I did say I was going to slip pot, but I definitely want to at least gently tease them out a little bit. Remember, I do live in Florida, so I don't have any cold weather or anything coming up. I wish. Well, actually, never mind. I don't wish. If I didn't like warm weather, I wouldn't live here. Well, now I'm thinking maybe the little rectangular training pot might be a good thing for it. I get I never do any moss on purpose. And I get the nicest looking moss on the places. I don't know if that's a good thing to have there or not. Got this one long root that does have new roots coming off of it. I'm not, if I was trying to spread it out for a good nabari, it should come out that way. Alright, I did decide I wanted to save that one root. And I decided to put it in this deeper, just nursery pot here. I figure I do like to admire my trees even when they're in training, but right now I just kind of want to keep this guy alive. If I decide to keep it in the pot for a little bit longer, I can always cut it down just so I can see it a little bit better. But I'm thinking within a year or two or something like that, I'll just go ahead and do a hard repot, cut that big root off, and try to get something a little bit flatter and wider. But right now, it's just the name of kind of keeping it alive. I put a screen in the bottom of it. This thing had huge draining holes. Just because it is a nursery pot. And then just put some of that old soil on the bottom. And then the other thought is I'm only going to fill the substrate up to here. Keep the center of gravity nice and low. If I had put it in this pot here, I would have had to have potted it almost all the way up to the top to allow that whole root to stay. And then you just have more chances of lizards, things like that, knocking it over. This way it'll just be a little more grounded. I do have it resting in like a really big pot at the edge. And I was allowing it to get escape roots, although there wasn't any in that little pot. There was a couple of little fine ones, nothing all that big of a deal. But now that it's got some more room to stretch out, it might start getting some. And the next time I update the mother tree, I'll be sure to update this one too.